Today on Fourth and a Mile, look, up in the sky, it's a bird. It was a sexual assault charge. No, it's a dolly flying through our bus window. Trust me, it'll all make sense in just a little bit. Stay tuned, everybody. Welcome in, everybody, to Fourth and a Mile, presented by Planet Adam. I am your host, the Pharaoh of Planet Adam, or God King, if you will. I am Adam Fernandez. Welcome on in, everybody. Today I am wearing my Bullet Club t-shirt because tomorrow is this whole weekend is huge in the world of professional wrestling. Tonight you have the WWE Hall of Fame ceremony. Tomorrow you have NXT TakeOver New Orleans, also down in New Orleans. You have tomorrow night Super Card of Honor, which is why I'm wearing the t-shirt. The match to decide who takes the lead of Bullet Club, Kenny Omega or Cody, is tomorrow night. I'm looking forward to seeing that one. I'm going to see how I can find it somewhere. And then on Sunday, of course, you have WrestleMania itself. So, a lot of stuff going on in the world of professional wrestling. We're not going to talk too much about it, though. But we are going to get into another event, combat sport event that's going on tomorrow as well. But first, guys, don't forget, go over to bandcamp.com. Check out A Bloody Chasm. They are the band that does the intro music for this show. That is my friends Jocelyn, Matt, and the rest of their mates putting that song together, as well as 4 or 5 other songs on bandcamp.com. Take a listen to them, download them. If you like hardcore rock and roll sound, you'll love that. Trust me, they're damn good. So yes, go check them out. On to the sports of the day. The red meat, the reason that you guys are all here. The biggest story to come out in the sports probably this entire week, if not even longer than that, involves the UFC yesterday. Conor McGregor is a guy that I used to love watching fight, because the guy can fight. He is pretty damn awesome in the octagon. He is a badass. He hasn't fought for UFC in about a year and a half. However, it was last night sometime, he turned himself in to New York police. And to be honest with you, I think that is probably the best picture you'll ever see of Conor McGregor, because that is what he is. The guy is, he's a thug. That's what he is. Plain and simple. He's a thug. So, yesterday, during the UFC 223 press day, Conor McGregor and company, and by company I mean I've heard numbers ranging from anywhere from 15 to 30 other people with him, crashed the UFC Media Day at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. McGregor turned himself in, like I said, and is being charged with 3 counts of assault, misdemeanor assault, 1 count of felony mischief. The word on that is that McGregor was there to retaliate for his friend Artem Lobov, who was supposed to be fighting tomorrow, but has since, because of his involvement with this incident, has been kicked off the card. He was confronted earlier in the week, according to sources, by, I'm hoping I'm saying this guy's name correctly, Khabib Nurmagomedov. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a big-time UFC fan. I watch the big matches, and so I know who some of the big fighters are. This guy I've never heard of. Apparently, he's the one of the combatants in the main event tomorrow night. And he still is fighting in the main event, even though his previous opponent, Max Holloway, was declared unfit to fight after this incident where McGregor goes in there and, with his group of people, attack a bus that was full of fighters from UFC, cornermen from these fighters, who are all there for the press day. In it, or during the whole debacle, McGregor gets a dolly from the side and hurls it at one of the bus windows and shatters the window, gets glass in some people's eyes. The glass cuts up the face of some other people. It was a whole big kerfuffle, which this ends up, and it's now 4 matches are actually scratched from the card. In response to all this, Dana White told TMZ about McGregor's future with the UFC. He's going to jail. People are going to sue him. He's going to have a bunch of civil lawsuits. McGregor's bail was set at $50,000, and he's being allowed to return home to Ireland. But this whole incident, I guess is the best way to put it, can almost be considered, and I say almost because I wouldn't put the blame on UFC, but for the incident itself, but for McGregor's attitude, you kind of have to put some blame on UFC. They have always given him everything he's ever wanted. He has been allowed to do things that other people would not have been able to, or would not have been allowed to do, and walk away scot-free. At a Bellator event in Dublin last year, I believe, he slapped a referee after the fight. It wasn't a fight that he was even involved in. That kind of thing. He's been doing stuff like that for forever, and UFC has done absolutely nothing about it, simply because McGregor is the biggest moneymaker that UFC has right now. The biggest that they've had in a long time. Ronda Rousey had been, but Ronda Rousey, after losing the matches that she lost, was pretty much no longer a moneymaker. Now that's why she's over in WWE and will be making her debut in WWE at WrestleMania on Sunday. But here's going to be the problem going forward for UFC. If you want to maintain legitimacy in your organization, I don't see any other way than to ban Conor McGregor from UFC for life for this incident. He led a gang of thugs into the Barclays Center and attacked a bus full of people. Yes, they are trained fighters, a lot of them were, but that doesn't make it legal by any stretch. That doesn't make it right by any stretch. That doesn't even make it slightly okay by any stretch. All of that, what he did yesterday was 100% completely against the law. So if they, and there are people that are trying to say that it's a work. Now, by that I mean I'm talking wrestling terms. Granted, it's UFC. This isn't pro wrestling, but in wrestling, when you call something a work, what that means is that's the act of telling the story. When Braun Strowman tipped over the ambulance that Roman Reigns was in, that was a work. He wasn't really intentionally trying to harm Roman Reigns. He was just trying to put on the show to build up the hype for the match between them. And so there's a lot of people that have been speculating that that's what this is. Dana White has since, and granted this only happened yesterday, but Dana White has come out 100% equivocally and said that no, this was not a work. We were completely unaware that this was going to happen. We don't know how it happened, how Conor McGregor could think that this was okay. So, then you know what? I kind of have to side with Dana White. Again, here's the issue though. If you want to maintain that legitimacy of your business, you're going to have to ban him for life. No longer allowed to step foot within a mile of any UFC event. Period. However, that would lead to a lot of issues for UFC. McGregor, like I said, is the biggest moneymaker that they have right now. And he himself has a lot of money. He himself has his own promotion company, Notorious something or other, in which he has put on fights like what they do in UFC through it. He has the money to compete with UFC, mainly because of that fight that he had with Mayweather back in, was it August? It was August or September. Being that he got that money, he's got the money to compete with UFC should he decide to go that route. So that's going to be the issue. It's, do you try to maintain your legitimacy as a legitimate sport, or do you take the chance of people starting to question the legitimacy of your company because this would make for big time money? There have been people already talking about how you might be seeing Nurmagomedov, whatever the hell his name is, versus McGregor somewhere down the line, possibly by the end of the year, and that this could be a startup of a build-up for that. And so, if something like that happens, then there's going to be a lot of people starting to question the legitimacy of UFC. Not necessarily in the fight itself. You know, they're not going to say that it's the same thing as pro wrestling, which is predetermined outcome. But the build-up towards the animosity between the fighters, you know, that's when it starts to become the soap opera that pro wrestling is. That's what pro wrestling is. It's a soap opera, you know, basically for men. But lately a lot of women have gotten into it as well, so that's cool, by the way. So now I stand a better chance of finding a hot chick that'll sit there and watch a wrestling match with me. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. So you have to play this very cautiously if you're Dana White in the UFC. Because you want to try to maintain some credibility. At the same time, you also don't want to have to try to compete against Conor McGregor when, again, Conor McGregor is the biggest draw you guys have had possibly ever. Possibly ever. And what he could do with his own promotion, what he could do with his own money, could really end up hurting the UFC there too. So this has really come to hurt UFC. I don't think that it's a work by any stretch of the imagination because of that. Because I think Dana White is smarter than that. I don't think that this is to build up some tension for tomorrow night's event to try to boost ratings. Because, well, you just lost out on three of your matches off of this card. Or 4 of your matches now, I'm sorry. Off this card. So there's no way, in my opinion, that this was a work. But Dana White could turn it into being part of a work if he keeps McGregor around to go ahead and fight Khabib. We'll just call him Khabib from this point on. Later down the line, if McGregor sticks around at all, it will turn into a work. I know I actually have a few friends that do MMA, not at the UFC level, obviously. Although if you guys ever do get that way, could you spot me $100? Just saying. But I'm gonna tell you right now that they wouldn't appreciate it being a work, because that would delegitimize what they do. My friend Anthony, he is a MMA fighter. You know, again, not at the UFC level, but I'm sure that he still is trying to eventually get there. He doesn't want it to be looked at as being the same thing as pro wrestling, even though he's a big pro wrestling fan himself, Anthony is. But if he or if this comes off to look at to be looked at as a work, if it comes off to be looked at as or if it delegitimizes what UFC does, when UFC is basically the modern version of boxing. When boxing was really good, these fighters promoted themselves and had great fights. It wasn't storyline based. This has now become a storyline, and so if you're UFC, you can't afford to go down that road, because then you turn into WWE, and well, we already have WWE, and people don't want to watch something that they perceive as being fake. I mean, I do. I watch WWE, I watch Ring of Honor, I watch New Japan, but the people that are really hardcore into MMA don't want to go down that way, because they don't want to have the actual fight itself questioned. They don't want to have to, and the fans don't want to have to wonder if this fight is real or not. So, Conor McGregor is off in Ireland right now. I'm assuming he got back there already with $50,000 bail. I would honestly say the best thing that Dana White can do is just go ahead and cut ties with McGregor completely, and try to, if he tries to come out and do his own promotion similar to UFC, you just got to try to put on a better card than what he can. So that's what you got to do if you're Dana White, if you're UFC. Honestly, I believe that's the route to go. Take your chances in losing out on the money that he'll bring in, because I think now that fight between McGregor and Khabib would be one hell of a draw, and it would bring in millions and millions of dollars. But in the long haul, it would end up hurting UFC, and people would start questioning the legitimacy of UFC, and so then they would go over and start watching another like a Bellator or something like that instead, because they see UFC as nothing more than WWE. So, yeah, if I'm Dana White, I am cutting all ties with Conor McGregor. Cutting him off of UFC, cutting him out completely, and just saying that, you know what, we're going to take our chances without you. And if Conor can do something remotely close to UFC, then, you know, more power to him. But I wouldn't want him on anything related to UFC at all. I wouldn't even mention his name again after this. That's what I would do if I were Dana White. Dana White's obviously a better businessman than I am, so he might have a different take on it. He might think differently than me, but I'm just saying what I would do. So either way, though, I think that this was a disgusting act by McGregor. I do still kind of believe that he holds some animosity towards UFC for stripping him of his title. He was the, I believe, lightweight, the lightweight champion until he got it stripped from him because he hadn't competed in UFC in a year and a half, partially because of the Floyd Mayweather match, but outside of that, even he hadn't done anything else either. So I think that McGregor holds some animosity, and I think that if he were still the champion right now, that he wouldn't have done this. As much as he would have wanted to stick up for his buddy, even though, to be honest with you, I don't know why he feels he should have to stick up for his buddy when his buddy's also a UFC fighter. Yeah, I think it was more... McGregor didn't take the UFC into consideration because he thinks that they didn't take him into consideration. So, all right, so on to other stuff. Yeah, that's it with McGregor. I'm gonna keep my eye on it and see what goes on going forward with this. He is gonna be in court soon. Civil lawsuits, yes, and also to answer to the charges of the 3 misdemeanor assaults and the 1 felony mischief. But yeah, if I'm UFC, I have nothing at all to do with him anymore. Period. Point blank. That's it. So on to other news and more criminal matters, I guess. This is a part of a story that I've been talking about for months now. Michigan State back in the news. A basketball player from Michigan State, Brock Washington, was charged with misdemeanor assault in Ingham County, Michigan. A female student at Michigan State claims that he had groped her without her permission last August. ESPN had requested a copy of the police report from Michigan State, but were denied by the president or by the interim president of Michigan State. He's the interim president because the previous president, I can't remember what her name is off the top of my head, resigned because of the Larry Nassar incident, or incidents, the hundreds of them. But yes, the interim president, John Engler, denied ESPN, stating that the statute that this case now falls under is designed to protect Washington. And it is. If it falls under what's up there called the Holmes Youthful Trainee Act, which basically allows anyone from the ages of 17 to 24 to plead guilty to a crime that's covered under the umbrella of the Holmes Youthful Trainee Act, and not have the guilty plea become a matter of public record. Believe it or not, cities all over the U.S. have that, or not called the exact same thing, and it doesn't do the exact same thing, but they all have something very similar to that. I don't know who you are, but I'm recording my show, so you're going to have to call me back. Anyways, here in San Antonio we have it. I can't remember what it's called over here. It's been a while since I've done any DWI or anything like that cases, but what it is essentially is even here, like I said, here in San Antonio, if you're between, I want to say here in San Antonio, it's between the ages of 18 and 22, and you get charged with a misdemeanor, say like a DWI, you can plead guilty to it and keep up with a special program that they have set for you, like a community service kind of thing, or paying a fine, and then it's completely wiped out of public record. Anytime anybody goes to do a background check on you, they won't find it. That kind of thing. So they have that here in San Antonio as well. And that's essentially what this is. Granted, this was, I guess technically, it was misdemeanor assault charge, blah, blah, blah. But in the state of Michigan, it also can lead to people being charged with felonies, pleading down to misdemeanors. In the case in that point, on Wednesday, 3 former Michigan State football players, Donnie Corley, Josh King, and Demetric Vance, all pled guilty to seduction charges, having been initially charged with sexual assault charges, felony sexual assault charges. And it all fell under this same umbrella, this Holmes Youthful Trainee Act. The purpose behind this, and the one in San Antonio and several other cities here in the U.S., is to not ruin a young person's life because of a dumb, dickheaded mistake that they made when they were younger. I kind of understand that. But when it comes to a felony sexual assault charge, I'm sorry, that doesn't sit well with me. If it's a felony sexual assault charge, you should be charged with a felony sexual assault. If you plead down to a misdemeanor with it, then okay, but at least, again, let it be a matter of public record. Let the facts come out about it. Again, I've been saying this about Michigan State University since the Larry Nassar trial began. What needs to happen at that university is give the entire athletic program, not just football, not just basketball, but the entire athletic program there, give them all the death penalty. That will hurt Michigan State drastically as far as money that they bring in. The vast majority of athletes there aren't under scholarship anyways. Most athletic scholarships go to football and men's basketball more than anything else. And that's at any university. Because those are the ones that make the money. You know, sorry women, but women's basketball makes zero. It doesn't make any money at all. So if these girls that play on the women's basketball team want to go elsewhere and play basketball, then they still can. However, this would hurt the athletic department bad there. It'll hurt the university drastically, but I think it should. This is a university that has time and time again swept these sexual assault allegations under the rug. Mark D'Antonio and Tom Izzo, the football and basketball coaches out there, have done absolutely nothing to stem this. They have pretty much, in a sense, played the same role as Joe Paterno during the Jerry Sandusky ordeal. They've turned a blind eye to it and said, you know what, I'm not going to pay any attention to it unless, until I absolutely have to, and that's when my players will be charged felonies, and then I'll just play dumb and say that I never saw it happening. That's pretty much what D'Antonio and Izzo have both done. They need to be fired. The entire athletic program needs to be cut off. Give them the death penalty. And what happens there is basically the athletic program in particular, in this case it would be the entire athletic program at Michigan State would be cut off for 2 years, not allowed to participate in any sport at all. After the first year, they can start recruiting to bring back players for the next season, but they would not be at the same level that they were at that they are at right now. It would go to drastically hurt Michigan State, but honestly, I believe that Michigan State deserves to be hurt that bad. I really do. I think that they have essentially earned it to be hurt that badly. So, and I understand again with the case of Brock Washington. Yes, I can see his being not being a matter of public what was I saying here? Yeah, of not being a matter of public record. Because with Brock Washington, at least all it was groping. To what extent, I don't know. If he was actually going up to her and grabbing her by the tits, then you know what? Yeah, that's an issue right there. But if he was just trying to put his arm around her or something like that, then yeah, I don't see ruining his life for something like that. These other guys, though, for sexual assault charges, again, I don't know, and nobody will know the extent of the charges levied against them, because it's, again, not a matter of public record. But if they were being charged with sexual assault, you would have to assume that it was more than just putting your arm around the girl. So, I know you shouldn't assume. It makes an ass of you and me, whatever. But I'm assuming, okay? So, all right. So that's what's going on with Michigan State. Again, the university needs to be punished drastically by the NCAA. Give the entire athletic program the death penalty and let them build the program back up from scratch. That's all you can do. That's what they need to do, and honestly, I think that that's the right way to go. It saves the NCAA's face. Michigan State would be able to... I mean, look at Penn State now. Penn State, they didn't get the death penalty. I think they should have, but they didn't get the death penalty. But they got as close to the death penalty as you can without getting the actual death penalty. They got their scholarships wiped out and basically had to start over again from scratch, but only they were allowed to do it the very next year. So, but now they've put together one hell of a football program. The past 2 years, they've been in the national title talk at least the majority of the season, and people don't look at as badly at Penn State University as they did while this stuff was going on with Sandusky and Paterno. So I think that would be the best thing you can do for Michigan State is cut off every single athletic program that there is. Because essentially, without the football team or the men's basketball team, without both of those, you're pretty much wiping out the rest of the athletic program anyway, because the rest of the athletic program isn't going to be able to make any money anyway. So I think that would actually be maybe more beneficial for Michigan State in the long term anyway. So, real quickly, let's go ahead and get into baseball. Just some talking abouts from this first week. Yesterday was the start of the second week of the regular season. Some surprises that we have going on right now. And I'm watching Cleveland and Kansas City right now on MLB Network. It's in the top of the fifth. Indians up 3-2. The Royals had a 2-0 lead, but then Danny Duffy just started walking everybody left and right. That's going to be the Royals' biggest problem, is that they have no starting pitching at all. But anyways, so let's look at some of the surprises that we have going on right now in baseball. And these surprises, I'm sorry, I'm still coughing, guys, are related to where teams are in the standings. The Pittsburgh Pirates are right now 5-1, sitting in first place in the National League Central. This is a team that essentially did the same thing as the Miami Marlins and traded away their top stars. They traded away Garrett Cole to Houston. They traded away Andrew McCutchen to San Francisco. So you kind of have to wonder if Pirates management are sitting there thinking, guys, that's not exactly what we're supposed to be doing, because they're playing good baseball. I mean, granted, they haven't really played. It's only been 2 series, and you can't really judge a lot from 1 week in baseball. You really can't. But to be sitting at 5-1 already is quite impressive. They just find ways to win. They're not playing great ball. I can't say that, but they're finding ways to win. And so right now they're sitting in first place above the Cubs, who are hovering around the 500 mark. The Dodgers, the Cardinals, my Cardinals, are 3-4 right now, and Cardinals have had some games where they've looked great, some games where they looked like crap. One game in particular where they looked great up until the 8th inning, and then they looked like crap after the 8th inning. So, the Pirates right now sitting at 5-1. That's a great start. Again, you cannot win a championship in April, but you can lose one. So right now, the Pirates so far are making sure that they're that they're going to fight till the end, I guess. You know, because again, 5-1, good job. Another team that's 5-1 are the New York Mets, also in first place in their division. I thought that the Washington Nationals would just trounce over everybody. But the Mets are looking good. They do have I would say the best rotation in the National League, possibly the best rotation in all of baseball. That's who the Cardinals started off playing. and Noah Syndergaard and Jake DeGrom just killed the Cardinals. They're going to do that with every team that they pitch against. But right now the Mets are sitting at 5-1. The veterans that they brought in for offense have all made big contributions to them winning. Jay Bruce, Todd Frazier, Adrian Gonzalez, Yoenis Cespedes, who's been there for a couple of years. They've all really done a great job, and so the Mets have really turned into a very competitive team, and might make me look bad at the end of the season and actually go ahead and win the division over Washington. So I'm going to keep my eye on that one. In the NL West, the D-backs aren't so much of a surprise with how good they're playing, but they are 5-1, and they're in first place. And the first place is the part that's kind of the shock, because the Dodgers is the team that everybody, including me, picked to win the National League West. The Dodgers right now are sitting at 2-5, and they're in fourth place. Just, I think, a game above San Francisco, who, because of all the injuries San Francisco has had to their pitching, have really not done much. Andrew McCutchen and Evan Longoria have not shown at all the abilities that they had when they were both with Pittsburgh and Tampa Bay, respectively, which made them perennial all-stars. Andrew McCutchen won his MVP, I think, in 2013. They're not showing that at all. You know, they've not hit the ball well at all. So the Giants are down to the very bottom, where I kind of thought they would be, just because of how bad their pitching is, because of the injuries, because of the injury to Bumgarner, because of the injury to what the hell's his name, Shark. But the Dodgers only have 2 wins this year. So that's kind of a shock right now. And again, they're sitting in fourth place. Another team that's a bit of a shock right now, because I actually picked them to pretty much trounce over the division in the AL Central, is Cleveland. The Indians are sitting right now at 2-4 in fourth place. Minnesota is in first place. Minnesota is the team that I actually expected to give the Indians the biggest competition. And I still think it's going to end up being a close race. But right now, Minnesota is looking really good. As to where Cleveland is looking mighty mediocre, if even that. So, okay, I was just watching the game right there. So the Indians right now, right now they're up 3-2 against Kansas City. Kansas City has just not played well at all. Kansas City is starting to look like Kansas City from pre-2015. And so, yeah, they're just not looking good at all. Granted, they are without their star player Salvador Perez, and they're going to be without him for a long time. But yeah, the Royals, yeah, they're in for another long span of being not that good of a team. So, but the Indians I still expect to get a lot better. They still have a really good pitching staff. They still have Francisco Lindor to lead the offense and the defense. So I believe that the Indians are going to get back on track. They just started off slow and are hiding in the weeds early. So, all right. So here's a couple other tidbits on baseball I want to talk about. First off, one thing that the Cardinals have had going great for them this year so far, and I don't expect them to continue this. Honestly, I think they're going to probably have to send them down to at least AAA here within the next few weeks. Jordan Hicks. This kid, 21 years old, and I say that they're going to have to send him down to AAA because I don't think he has enough experience yet. Right now, all he's doing is blowing his fastball by everybody, and he's got three types of fastball. But his breaking pitches, he really hasn't thrown them that much, and that's because they're not that good. So when people can actually catch up to his fastball, then they'll be able to start rocking him. But so far, you know what? He's looked really good. He gave up a double yesterday. I believe that was only the second hit he gave up all year. He is still not giving up a single run. He is typically, when you talk who throws the hardest in baseball, the name that first comes up to everybody is Aroldis Chapman. This kid is throwing a lot harder than Aroldis Chapman. He has, out of the 6 fastest pitches this year, he has 5 of them. Aroldis Chapman has 1. And I think Aroldis Chapman is like 6. His average pitch is 96, but his fastball, whether it be his 4-seamer, 2-seamer, or a slider, have all been clocked at right around, or the slider has been clocked at 100, and then the 2-seamer and the 4-seamers have all been clocked at around 101. So he is throwing hard, and he's throwing very hard, and it's 101.6 is his top fastball. The closest that Chapman got was, I believe it was like 100.4 or something like that so far this year. So this kid is going to be really good. I think he's going to end up being great. I think next year you might want to go ahead and start making plans. I mean, we got Greg Holland for 1 year. Greg Holland can be the closer this year. Give Hicks some more time down in the, like I said, at AAA to work on his breaking pitches. Then that's your closer of the future right there. This guy throws extremely hard, and that's what closers are supposed to be doing. Fact is, he's not all that big of a guy either. Typically, when you think of someone throwing 100 and 101 miles an hour, you're thinking of someone who's at least a good 6'4", 6'5", like Aroldis Chapman. He's not. He's, I think, just a hair over 6 foot. Not a big guy by any stretch of the imagination, but he's just got a cannon for an arm, and like I said, he's able to get it up about 100 and 101 miles an hour. So I think he's a keeper for the Cardinals, but I think I think they need to go ahead and give him some time down in the minors. Once Holland is ready to go, Holland is still working out, trying to get the rust off. They signed Holland on opening day, so he didn't have any chance to work out with the team or anything like that during spring training. So he's making some appearances right now down at A-ball just to get the rust out and get his pitching down again. So, but Holland should be back up on the team here very shortly, or should be on the team very shortly, not back because he's never been a Cardinal before. But Jordan Hicks, I think, is going to be the guy that you have to send on down to AAA. Again, to give him some time to work on his pitches. So, because he should be the closer of the future. He should be exactly what you're thinking about in the long-term plans for the Cardinals, in my opinion. So, and then also yesterday, last story of the day, before the Mariners and Twins got their first pitch, they were playing in Minnesota. James Paxton was the starting pitcher for Seattle. Excuse me. He was standing out in I believe it was right field, it might have been left field. It was somewhere in the outfield during the national anthem. And you see this happen a lot at baseball games. During national anthem, you have a guy that's an eagle trainer who brings out an eagle and lets the eagle fly around the stadium, and then come on back down to him on his little perch thing. Well, that's what happened yesterday. So the eagle's flying around, and James Paxton's a tall guy. He's like, I think 6'5", 6'6", somewhere in there. And so, in fact, here, I'll show you the incident in question. Oh, man, I meant to show you Tom Izzo as well, but I keep forgetting about that to show you guys the pictures that I pull up. But, so he's a big guy, and the eagle is circling around and sees him. Obviously, because he kind of sticks out because he's so tall, and he's out there pretty much in the middle of nowhere. There's nothing else around him other than the rest of the stadium that's, away from him. So my guess is that the eagle thought that either A, he was a tree, or B, that he was the actual trainer, just because he didn't see anybody else. So the eagle tries to come on in, land on his shoulder, and he doesn't have the perch thing on his shoulder, so the eagle falls off, and so the eagle jumps back up there. And the whole time, that's exactly pretty much what James Paxton was looking like. He didn't try to run. He didn't try to... he ducked a little bit. He ducked his head because the eagle's flapping his wings. And as you can see, those are some big damn wings. But all in all, he stood in place. And after the game, when he was being asked about it, about what his mindset was when he saw the eagle. He said, "Well, I saw him coming at me, and my only thought was, well, let's see what happens." So you got to give the guy credit. Me personally, I would have been shitting bricks and I would have been hightailing it out of there if I saw an eagle flying at me. Those things are not small, as you can see on this thing. They are huge, huge birds. So yeah, mad props to James Paxton for standing in place and and just not making any threatening moves or not shitting his pants, because I would have shit my pants. I have no doubt of that. I would have shit my pants. Ask Rose about me when it comes to birds. I scare very easily by birds. So, and that's Rose Fonseca at DGD, guys. So ask her about that story. She'll tell you. So, all right, guys. What I'm going to start doing from this point on is 3 shows a week instead of the 4 that I've been doing. It just makes it easier on me, and I think it helps build up more stuff to talk about doing it that way as well. So Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from now on. That's why I didn't do a show yesterday. But yeah, that's what we're gonna do from this point forward, and hopefully we'll get this show to continue to grow. So outside of that, guys, if you have any comments, questions, suggestions, complaints, anything at all, go ahead and leave them down in the comments down below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this video. And yeah, other than that, guys, if there's nothing else, and I don't think there is, as always, besos.